Well, talk about some major hypocrisy here. This is an interesting story because it's about a New York assemblyman, a lawmaker, a guy that votes on the laws, basically. He had a voting record of voting against medical marijuana, and guess what happened? He got caught with a bag of weed in his car while he was speeding. Ha! In other words, he wasn't just using it for medical use. He was using it for recreational use while he was driving. How's that for hypocrisy? So you got to figure this. Why is this Republican lawmaker in New York voting against medical marijuana? You know what it is? It's the powers that be. He's an own politician. That's 90% of the problem. These guys aren't voting what they think is right or what they think is morally right. They're voting by what's going to keep their ass in office because the powers that be want medical marijuana illegal. So, it goes on to state, I'll post a link on this story. This is a true story. It's not bullshit. A Republican lawmaker in New York who has a record of voting against medical marijuana legalization has been charged with possession of marijuana. The state police officer in New York State said that a suspicious odor was noticed in Assemblyman Steve Katz's vehicle when they pulled him over for driving, for speeding. And so in other words, it was lit up while he was driving. So they found in his possession a small bag of marijuana. And it was lit up while he was driving. So why is this guy voting against medical marijuana? Quite obviously, it's not his personal conviction. It's obviously some other people's conviction. So, this points out a little bit more than just his own hypocrisy. It also points out that there's a hidden power back there. There's some forces back there. I don't want to really call it. Well, it's quite obviously the reason why medical marijuana is illegal, because you could put out a lot of pharmaceuticals out of business. As a matter of fact, when marijuana was first being banned in this country back in the 1930s with I think it was the Marijuana Stamp Tax Act. I forgot what it was, to tell you the truth, but the American Medical Association at the time was vehemently protesting the ban because cannabis, medical marijuana, was being used in so many medicines all throughout decades back all the way into the 1800s. The American Medical Association was actually protesting the ban. So really, who was pushing the ban? There's bigger forces going on. And it's kind of like illustrated again by this Assemblyman Stephen Katz voting against medical marijuana, yet he's smoking this stuff while he's driving a car speeding. How's that? So this is like ridiculous. So it goes to show you, it's not just like he's above the law. He probably ain't going to get in trouble. He's not voting for his personal convictions. And this is what's probably wrong with most of the politicians out there. They're pleasing their masters. They're not pleasing the people of the United States. We the people are in charge. This guy ought to get slammed. This is a bunch of bullshit. He's pure hypocrisy all the way.